Hey, welcome to the Straight Sports Podcast. We're your hosts, Tushar and
Joshua.
in this podcast, we will give our opinions on our favorite sports, which are basketball, soccer, and wrestling.
So, topic one NBA. The first round of the NBA playoffs has come to an end, and we will be going over each first round series and giving our reaction to it. So, first, in the Eastern Conference, the first seed Bucks versus the 8 seed Miami Heat. The Miami Heat won the series 4-1. What are your thoughts on that?
Stunned. I don't think anybody saw this coming. Uh, the team that they were the favorites to win the championship according to the betting odds. This is a team that I chose to win it all. And my pick is
Well,
already
bad
out the
luck now.
window. It's already out there. A lot of people picked them. Definitely, I'm not the only one. But I'm stunned. Obviously, we could argue, Giannis missing those 3 games was key, but they tied the series 1-1. It was 2-1 when Giannis returned for Game 4. So everybody thinks, oh, the Bucks got this under control. That's what I thought too. They were up 13 in that fourth quarter of Game 4. I think it was 108-95. They blew that lead. There was one guy named Jimmy Butler, but you're still up 13. You're a team that's won a championship. You've done it. You can't blow a 13-point lead. Then go to Game 5. You're up 102-86 at the end of the third quarter in your building. You blow the lead and lose it in overtime. You know, that is embarrassing, and all I could say is, you got to give flowers to Jimmy Butler. I don't know what he does in the playoffs, but that 56-point performance that I saw in Game 4 might have been one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in the postseason. This is a guy, I mean, just going on the stats, well, he averaged 37.6 points in 5 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, he shot 59.7% from the field, 44.4% from 3, 6 rebounds, almost close to 5 assists, almost close to 2 steals. I mean, he was spectacular in this series, and we talked about the Milwaukee Bucks, and the reason I picked them to win it is because with Giannis, they got so many other pieces. They're so deep. But you look at Jimmy Butler against Drew Holiday, he shot 57% against him. Against Giannis, shot 86%. Chris Middleton, 50%. Brook Lopez, 63%. Wesley Matthews, 50%. Bobby Portis, 86%. Jay Crowder, 67%. Grayson Allen, 57%. Ingles Connaughton, 50%. This was somebody posted on Twitter, Brady Hawk. So just that's the person who posted on Twitter. So just want to give the credit to him. But when I saw this, it's just like this man cooked everybody, and this is again one guy, a one-man show who willed his team to win the series. But in Game 5, other guys stepped up. Bam had a triple double. Gabe Vincent was phenomenal, and Tyler Hero got injured in Game 1. That's their third best scorer. So this is an impressive win. Obviously, again, there's an argument. Giannis was there. I think the one thing is me and you believe that the series wouldn't be competitive. Maybe we would have been wrong in the sense that maybe this series still would have been competitive and maybe the winner would have been different, but this is still embarrassing, especially the fact that Giannis came back for Game 4 and 5. You had a 13-point lead and a 16-point lead, and you blew both of those leads. And obviously, you got to give kudos to Giannis for coming back. Obviously, I know he had a lower back contusion, but I think in Game 5 he missed 13 free throws. I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, there's always going to come criticism to superstars because, I read the comments and you see things about, oh, and again, you understand he was injured. I'm not going to blame this really all on him because if he played this whole series and they lost, that's a different story. But bottom line is if this was KD or LeBron, they're not getting a pass for this, even if they
True.
missed it. That's just how I feel. But I'm not going to criticize Giannis that much. He's still arguably, in a lot of people's opinion, is the best player in the world. He was number 2 on my rankings. I think for Josh, he was number 3. But regardless, um, I'm just stunned.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I did pick the Bucks to win the series. Um, Giannis did get out, and shout out Jimmy Butler, like you said, one of the greatest playoff performances of all time. Certainly the best I've ever seen in my life. And That's just what it took to will this Heat team over the Bucks. You
Mm,
know, and with that being said, every star had to align, you know, for this Heat team to beat the Bucks.
mm.
And the Giannis injury essentially out for 3 games. Obviously, I'm not putting much stock into the win because he was out. So, you know, if that's what the Heat need to advance, then that's what they need. But it's a win nonetheless, and injuries are part of the game. So
Yeah, and he, like I said,
the
he
best
came
team wins,
back
the
for
most
the
healthy
last
team
two
wins.
games, and he did come back for the last two games. He played great.
Yep,
And they had a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter, 7 minutes left in game four, and they had a 16
blew it.
point lead going into the fourth quarter of game five in Milwaukee.
He blew it, bro.
They blew that. This is,
He
and of
also
course,
missed
this is not
13
this
free
is not
throws,
as
so
close to what the
game
Clippers
changing,
did in
man.
the bubble, but somewhat little, very little similar in that sense of having those big leads and blowing them.
Also, those 13 missed free throws, literally
Yeah, I
game
mean, 10 for
changing. Who,
23. I
who who
remember
knows
saw
what the game would have been
the
like if he
last
hit
the
even
possession. There was
five
a
more of those,
possession.
man.
Yeah, there was a possession in game five. It was a jump ball, and it felt like when Giannis got the ball, he just threw it out of his hands. It felt like there was some sort of
Yeah,
fear to go to the free throw line at the time. I'm not gonna say he's fear because he's already won a championship. He's a mentally tough guy, but it felt like that watching. And then the last play when Giannis, had they were down two, and Giannis passed the ball out, and then Grayson Allen didn't even know the shot clock.
yeah,
First of all, everybody criticized
embarrassing.
because they had a timeout. I didn't even, and you got to call that timeout. So obviously that's again, obviously Eric's supposed to outcoach Budenholzer very badly, but you know, if you're that best, if you're that guy, you got to take that shot. You can't pass the ball up. You probably get fouled. Something you have to attack the basket. You can't allow a guy like Grayson Allen to determine your season. I'm not knocking him, but the ball should be in the best player's hands.
100% agree. So next up, there was an interview with Giannis after the game.
Mm,
Um, uh, reporter asked him if he thought this season was a failure because
hmm
they did get knocked out 4-1 by the
And this
Miami
is
Heat,
and
who
this
were
is
the
the
eighth seed.
sixth seed, the sixth time in NBA history an eighth seed beat a number one seed. Doesn't happen a lot.
Yep. So he replied, "This, it's not a failure. It's steps to success. There's always steps to it. Michael Jordan played 15
Mm.
years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years were a failure. That's what you're telling me?" He continued and said, "It's the wrong question. There is no failure in sports. There's good days, bad days. Some days you're successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Sometimes other people win. And this year, someone else is going to win. Simple as that." So do you agree with Giannis? Do you think the Bucks season was a failure?
So technically, what Giannis Antetokounmpo said, in a sense, I agree with. In the sense where, you know, you can't win a championship every year. That is true. Some years you're not going to win it. Some years it doesn't go your way. That is true. And in a sense, where he said with Michael Jordan, and that is true. Nobody's saying his whole, the 9 years he didn't win it. Like nobody's saying that those years was a failure. But regardless, when you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, arguably one of the best players in the world, and and your team, the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a very good roster. You have Drew, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, a very deep roster. You're the number one seed. You have the best record in the NBA, and you lose in round one. That's a failure. Because of the expectation, we expect so much greatness from a Giannis Antetokounmpo led team, and especially with the team that they had. It's disappointing and it's a failure for them not to win it because they they played very low to the expectations everybody had for them. They were the favorites to win the championship and they're eliminated in round one. So in a sense, it is a failure. It's a disappointment. But I understand where Giannis is coming from. But I do believe that this season for the Milwaukee Bucks is a failure. They didn't play all this 54-28. They didn't do all this to get bounced out in round one. We know if you have a guy like Giannis on your squad, you're trying to compete for a championship every year. So that's where I stand.
I agree with what you said, but I feel like you're being a bit too nice, man.
Hmm.
This is the 1 seed. Yes, their star player was out, but compared to the Heat roster, I'd say it's pretty even. They're both extremely deep teams. Middleton was there. Drew
And the
Holiday
Heat,
was
just
there.
to put something, my bad for cutting you off. Just to put something, he actually have one of they ranked the worst offensive team in the league. But yeah, go
Another
ahead.
good point.
Hmm.
So you're playing the worst offensive team in the league with two of your other stars. The Heat have one star, I'd say. Bam, he's iffy. He's here and there. Um, Harrell obviously was out, so that's another one of their top scorers out. So even without Giannis, I'd still say that you know the Bucks should handle the Heat.
Yeah, and
Now,
like I
what
said,
he's
when
saying
yeah,
about how there's steps to success, I agree. How there's no failure, that's wrong.
yeah.
I'm sorry. You're the defending champions. Well,
Well,
you're
they
not the defending champions,
yeah,
but
but they
you
won
won
it
a
2 years
championship
ago.
with this roster
Mhm.
and you have experience. You've been there before. You know what it takes. And for him to even say this and try to make it seem like that, you know, the one seed with the best record in the NBA, I believe, right?
Yep.
To get taken out by an 8 seed,
Hmm.
that's not a failure? Come on, bro. I mean, I guess he's
Like if
hurting.
they
I
got to the
understand.
conference finals and they
Like,
lost in 7 games to Boston, we
come
would
on,
view it
like,
very differently. But it's the
that's
first
true.
round, and it's the eighth
100%
seed.
agree.
This is a team that lost their first play-in game and barely beat Chicago just to get here.
But I can't see how he's saying it's not a failure. To me, it's 100% a failure. Like,
Yeah, I
to me,
think
there's
it's
no
clear to
explanation for
say
this.
the player Giannis is not a failure, but the team
Yeah,
success is a
yeah,
failure
the
because there's
team is.
high expectation when you're that talented of a guy like Giannis and you have that kind of team around you. There is gonna be disappointment and it's gonna look like a failure, especially if you don't exceed. Nobody saw the Bucks losing in round one. Everybody thought they were a set conference finals, and maybe some people had Philly and some people had Boston. I had Boston, right, in the conference finals, and you have Philly, right? So but everybody thought it was set they were going to conference. Oh, they have an easier path. They don't have to go through Boston or Philly. They have to go through Miami and then potentially. And again, those teams are good, but we don't think they're to the level of Philly and Boston, which is the Knicks, right? Potentially, you had the Cavs winning, and it's okay to be wrong because you've been wrong about the Knicks all year long. But regardless, we'll move on to that later. But this is like I said, if this is any other superstar, they're not letting them go. If this is Katie and LeBron, that criticism is coming. So I think regardless, had he played the whole series and they lost, I think then I would have been really like, okay, yeah. But he missed 3 games, so it's kind of like tough to really say completely, you know, that with it being it's still a failure, but in the sense that like he missed 3 games, so you wonder if he was there. Do they win the series? Then it changes. But I think the last point I wanna say on this is there's a I mean, again, I don't wish for anybody to lose their job, but there could be a chance that somebody's going to take the blame for this. Is Mike Budenholzer to go?
I think he's out of there.
He
hundred
might
percent.
he might be out. Is there changes? Will they actually make changes to the roster? Are they going to go out there and maybe get a
I
Dame
mean, the
Lillard?
roster is solid, bro. If Giannis is there, man, they're
Mm,
a contender. But I think they got to shake something up, bro.
yeah,
We'll see though.
something's got to change. But I also want to say one thing. The last thing. Sorry, one more thing. I want to say this. The, Jimmy Butler owns the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's just keep it
Yes.
like this. In the bubble, the Milwaukee Bucks had a chance to win an NBA championship. They had the best record. They played the Miami Heat with the fifth seed at the time. They lost 4-1. And then you see the chatter. I mean, I never said this because I don't think this is fair, but it's the bubble. You can't do this. When it's not the bubble. Then you
Mickey
play.
Mouse.
Then you play. What do you mean, Mickey Mouse?
I'm just saying, like, because it was the bubble environment.
Come on, man, stop that. Don't be a hater too. Like
I'm
these
just
clowns
saying,
out
bro.
here.
Like, I'm just
Stop it.
saying, bro.
We all know if the Clippers or some other team would have won it, they're not saying it's Mickey Mouse. It's because the
Yeah, they
Lakers
would
won it.
have. Like,
Everybody,
I think I especially if
no,
the
they
Clippers
wouldn't.
would have
Nobody,
won it. Get real, bro.
nah,
Come
nobody
on,
would said
bro.
it's Mickey Mouse.
I'm
Only
just
because
saying,
it's a
bro. The bubble
LeBron James
environment, bro.
80.
Like, that's a whole different like thing,
I
bro.
don't. I don't think it's fair to say it's Mickey Mouse though. I think that's
I
disrespectful.
mean, what else would you call it? It was only one in the Magical Kingdom, bro. It was
Okay,
one in
so you're
Disneyland,
laying
bro.
in literal
like,
terms. In literal terms, it was in
it's
Disneyland.
literally
That's
a
what you're
Mickey
saying.
Mouse championship. It was one in
Okay,
Disneyland.
but you're saying in literal terms. I thought because it feels like when somebody says Mickey Mouse is
I mean,
degrading.
obviously it has an asterisk. asterisk. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I don't agree. I don't think it's no asterisk.
I
I really don't. I don't. I think that
mean, I
I
guess
don't think
that's a
that's fair.
conversation for another day, but
Okay, yeah. But regardless, in the bubble, right? They beat him, and everybody said, "Oh, you only did in the bubble." Blah blah blah. You wouldn't probably have done it there. Okay. Then the next time they played, the Bucks swept them. We remember that one.
you remember that clearly.
Yep. And then the next time they played, 4-1, they just beat them as an 8th seed with a team that wasn't the 5th seed team that they had was probably better that they had, and they won 4-1. And if you look at it, Jimmy Butler, what is let's see, he's 8-2. Let's see, 8-6 against the Milwaukee Bucks. He's won 2 out of 3 series. Those 2 times he beat them, the Milwaukee Bucks could have easily won the championship both of those years. Crown him the king of Milwaukee.
So next, the second seed Celtics versus the 7th seed Hawks. The Celtics won the series 4-2, as I predicted.
Yeah. I got to give you your flowers. I really didn't think the Atlanta Hawks were gonna win a single game in a series, and they impressed me when they won game 3, and then when they won game 5 without Dejounte Murray, I thought it was very impressive. They made the series very competitive. Just game 6, it looked like they were gonna win game 6. They're pretty close. But bottom line is the Boston Celtics are a legit team. Now they got home. They have the best record now. They have home court throughout the playoffs now. Now that the Milwaukee Bucks blew it, so. But yeah, I don't think there's nothing much to say on the series. The Celtics did what everybody expected them to do, win the series. But the Atlanta Hawks made it very competitive. So I got to give them flowers, and I think it would be competitive. But all I'll say is this: the Atlanta Hawks made a blockbuster trade to get DeJounte Murray, gave up a lot of
Yep.
picks. The year before they were the 9th seed. They won 2 playing games and they lost 4-1 to Miami. This year they got this. I think it was they were the 8th seed originally. They won their playing game to get the 7th seed, and they won one more game with DeJounte Murray. So huge acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
I mean, they played good against Boston. I'm not gonna hear
yeah,
and
yeah, they
criticize. They
played
played good,
decent.
but obviously, I know they did not make this trade a lose in round 1. But I understand they play Boston. We expect them to lose. Apparently, they were supposed to be better than Knicks. Somebody told me this on this podcast. I don't know who his name is.
Yeah, when you find who it was, just let me know, bro. Man.
Go
But
ahead.
anyway, yeah, good series for the most part. I mean, yeah, like you said, Boston was expected to take the win. I did call it in 6.
You did. Got to give you your flowers.
DeJounte, Trey Young combo
Mhm.
looking questionable. I mean, if we look at this game, I mean, both of them played like objectively horrible. Like Trey Young 9 for 28, DeJounte 5 for 13. Both were struggling, and the game was still relatively close. So could you imagine if they both had decent shooting nights?
Yep.
But hey, man, you know how it goes. That's basketball. Um, the Hawks. I mean, Trey Young was in some trade talks. I did hear he was on the trading block. Let's see where they go with that. Could he play his last game in the Hawk jersey? We'll
I
see.
can't see. You can't trade him, man.
But
He's a superstar. He's a
But
superstar caliber
hey
talent,
man,
man.
we'll see, man. But the duo isn't looking that great. John Collins had some bright spots in the series.
Spurs
Still don't think,
fleeced.
still don't think he'll be on the roster next season.
Probably
But
not.
you know, and officially, with Atlanta officially being eliminated, I do have to say that the Spurs did win the trade.
I
I
don't
mean,
believe.
obviously,
I didn't say that initially. I said I gave the Atlanta Hawks an A and the Spurs a B plus, but it wasn't an F. That's what I was
yeah,
trying to tell you.
in the moment, emotions running high. I was pretty pissed. But, seeing a full circle, when we get the number 1 pick and get Victor, I mean, everything will be right. And, San Antonio will be back on top again,
Don't
bro.
get your hopes too up, man. Don't have your hopes too high. You know what I'm saying?
Atlanta, where do they go from here? Don't know. I mean, I feel like they're going to hit their peak, man.
I think they'll bring this team back. I mean, they got a new coach now. They probably run it back. Murray has another
Yeah, but
year on
what's
his
the
contract.
ceiling?
Well, it
Second
better be more
round?
than the first round. Everybody feels like that first year when they got to the conference finals, they over accomplished.
They
So it kind
did.
of, and then they lost in round 1 back to back years. But definitely, I think their goal should definitely be to be a top 4, top 5 seed. But it's gonna be hard to do that with the Knicks being here.
True. The third seed 76ers versus the 6th seed Nets. The 76ers won the series 4-0. Shout out
Another,
Josiah. Shout out Sean Marks, man.
bro,
So,
this guy
what's
with
your
the
thoughts on the
trolls.
series,
Oh
man?
my goodness, always just calling these guys out. But you called it too. You said a sweep. I thought I'd go 5, but I mean nothing major. It's not like nothing we expected. I felt like the Nets played, pretty good. They competed. Mikal Bridges really showed that is a guy you can build around your team. He's very talented. He's a two-way player. He averaged like 25 plus in this series. Cam Johnson averaged over 20. But James, Joel, Maxi Harris, they did their thing. And this was a series you expected to win. It is so unfortunate here. Embiid got hurt in game 3. He didn't play game 4. Shout out Paul Reed with that 10 points, 16 rebounds. Tobias Harris 25 points. James Harden, that double double. Everybody stepped up to make sure they ended the series because last year they were up 3-0. They made it go to 6 games, and we saw, unfortunately, due to that, Embiid got an injury in game 6. So you never know what can happen. You got to close it out when you get a chance. They did that even without Embiid. But this was a defensive series, I would say. I think you've seen, I think it was game 2. The Sixers won the game, but they only scored 96 points. So it was a very defensive series. But I think this, the Nets show some grit. I like the coach Jack Vaughn for this team. He's a really good coach. And next year Nets, they got a lot of wings. See, maybe they might trade some of these players, but I think their their focus should be, obviously re-signing Cam Johnson, building this team around Mikal Bridges because he looks like, yeah, I think he definitely has he has a chance to make the All Star team next year because he's been playing phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a good series. I mean, I did kind of know what the outcome was going to be. Obviously, there were some close calls. The Knicks, I mean, Knicks,
Oh yeah,
the Nets
one
with their
last
talented
thing. My bad
players.
for I'm sorry for
Oh,
cutting you
yeah.
off, but Harden gets ejected, and Embiid did it intentionally, but
Yeah,
he
that
got
was
a
weird,
flagrant
man.
one. That
Not
was
going
weird.
to
I
lie.
did believe Embiid should have got ejected for that. Game. Just my
I
personal
agree.
opinion. But he gets so Embiid doesn't get ejected for, I think it was game 3. James Harden got ejected. That doesn't make sense. And that was not intentional.
Hmm.
And then with the Draymond Green thing, that was interesting. Obviously, that I did agree that he deserved the flagrant 2
Yeah.
in that game, but I didn't think a suspension was warranted because sometimes you look at, obviously you have to look at what happened. He and sometimes based on how severe the injury was, Sabonis is playing right now. But you look at Draymond and, like, bottom line is that's a pivotal game. Um, but like I said, Sabonis, I always talk about who initiated, and Sabonis is the one who started to grab his ankle first. But again, I do agree the fact that Draymond should have got ejected for that game. He did. Didn't think he should have got suspended for that game. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The Nets, they got their talented players. I agree with what you said about the flagrant. I mean, I think that was a total missed call by the refs on both situations. But, that's how the game is. But, yeah, like I said, this was a good warm up series from the 76ers. It was pretty competitive for the most part. Games were close. And I feel like Embiid's out, but hopefully he's 100% for the next series.
Oh,
And let's just see
they're
how far
playing the
this
team
Philly
that
team can
owns
go,
them.
man.
Hopefully he is, man, because the Boston
Let's
Celtics is
see,
gonna be a
man.
tough. Like I said, I don't see them beating them, but that's gonna be tough for them.
And next, the fourth seed Cavs versus the fifth seed Knicks. The Knicks win the series 4-1. What are your thoughts?
New York, stand up. I've been telling you, Josh, from day one. I thought the Knicks were going to win this series in 6, but they dominated the Cleveland Cavaliers. It went only 5 games, and this was the Cavaliers. The 4 games they lost, they couldn't score 100 points. They
Yeah,
couldn't. There was a game they didn't score 80 points. That's the first time I think you've ever seen that. This Knicks team defensively, Tibbs did his thing, and then Jalen Brunson, just what he continues to do, and then Julius Randle missed. He got hurt in Game 5. He missed that Game 5. They still closed out the series. Josh Hart doing his thing. Grimes. Shout out RG Barrett. Game 3, Game 4, Game 5. He stepped up. He did his thing. But what this series showed, there was a lot of people saying about the Donovan Mitchell. The storyline was about, Donovan Mitchell against, he was supposed to be a Nick, didn't happen. Like I told you at the time. Yeah, you go out there and try to get Donovan Mitchell, but for a reasonable price. The Utah Jazz knew that the Knicks wanted Donovan Mitchell. They also knew Donovan
true.
Mitchell wanted to go to the Knicks because he's from there. and they asked for a king ransom. It was like, hey, give up all your depth and all your picks, and we'll give you Donovan Mitchell. That's not a smart trade. That's not a realistic trade. So I agreed when the Knicks didn't do that trade, and it showed in this series how important depth is because Quickly was phenomenal off the bench. Topman, I mean, Hartenstein. There was just a lot of people off the bench
Yeah.
that was really playing good and phenomenal basketball. Josh Hart, so depth does matter, and we've seen that in this series, and we also seen that Jalen Brunson has sent Donovan Mitchell home back to back years. Last year, I understand he played with Luka and all that, but those first 3 games, there was no Luka, and he had him up 2-1. Jalen Brunson is a winning player. Let's just keep it as it is. He is a huge reason why that the playoff series drought is over. The last time they won a playoff series was in the Melo era. And if you look, and I just want to bring up these stats because I've been trying to tell you the Jalen Brunson edition was great. Jalen Brunson is 8-3 versus Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs, 2-0 series wise. He's and then if you look at this, Jalen Brunson, he averaged 27.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, 4.2 assists in 6 games against the Jazz when he was in Dallas in 2022. And this season he averaged 24 points, 5 assists, close to 5 assists. So, and you look at that, it's just phenomenal. And then, you look at Donovan Mitchell, he averaged, I think, 25.5, so about 26 points when he was in Utah, and he averaged 23.2 this series. So Jalen Brunson has outplayed him, and let's keep it
Yep.
as phenomenal as Donovan Mitchell, and he is phenomenal. Jalen Brunson was the best player in this series. And let's just
Easily.
keep
Yeah.
it as it. We talk about Donovan Mitchell, oh, he's better and this and that. And the people always talk about this debate, in the sense, oh, come on, that's not even an argument. Well, 2 times he's outplayed him. Yes, I understand he had Luka, but remember for those first 3 games, he did not. So my point is that Jalen Brunson has been a huge addition. He's a winning player. And again, when I think about Donovan Mitchell, as phenomenal he is, I always said, he took accountability. I like when stars take accountability, be like, I deserve the criticism, because he didn't, he had a couple of bad games in the series. But like I said, for Donovan Mitchell, I see him as a guy who could be a second best player on a championship team, not the first. That's just how
Yeah.
I feel. That's not any me hating the player, just how I feel personally. Like if he's on a team, Kevin Durant's the best player, he's number two. I can see him winning a championship. But as the number one guy, year after year, he's proven that he's not able to go out there and win a championship. He's had a chance when Kawhi got hurt and against when in the I think it was game 4. It was 2-2 and they lost that series. Um, he's never been out. He's never made it to the conference finals. He's bounced out in round 2, round 1, and both him and Rudy Gobert out of round 1. Unfortunately, the Cavs made a good trade. The Minnesota Timberwolves, I don't know whoever made that trade. I
um,
mean, I don't know what he was thinking, but regardless, yeah, that's kind of what I want to say. But New York stand up, and I'm just so happy for the New York fan base. Shout out Danny, the realest Knicks
yeah.
fan
Shout
I
out
know.
Danny, man.
He deserves this because I've seen on Instagram like the first thing I see when the Knicks win the series, second round exit. Like the hate is crazy. They just don't want to see the Knicks wins. Like I want to say something to all these people. Let the Knicks fans enjoy their moment. This is a fan base who's went through a lot. This is a fan base who's hasn't won a playoff series in so many years. And like 20 years, they barely won a couple of maybe one playoff series or 2 playoff series now. This is a fan base who hasn't made the playoffs in a long time. They made it 2 years ago. I think they lost in 5 games. Let them enjoy this moment. Stop hating on them. Stop, just be like second round exit. Just let them enjoy it. Let them enjoy it. This is their moment and they deserve it. And shout out Danny. You enjoy this moment and you deserve it, my brother. Now, the last thing I want to say, this is one interesting thing. When the Knicks played 2 years ago against the Atlanta Hawks, they were the fourth seed and the Hawks were the fifth seed.
Yeah.
Now, 2 years after, they're the fifth seed and the Cavs are the fourth seed. As a fifth seed, the Hawks won game 1 and the Knicks won game 2. Now we look at the Knicks as a fifth seed against the Cavs versus the fourth seed. The Knicks won game 1 and the Cavs won game 2. The Hawks protected their home court as a fifth seed. So did the Knicks. They were both up 3-1. And then the Hawks won another road game, game 5, as a fifth seed back in New York, and the Knicks won a game five in Cleveland. It's so crazy how it kind of really was the same thing, very parallel. But it showed that the Knicks' missing piece was Jalen Brunson. They needed a point guard. They struggled to have an elite point guard, and they finally got one, and it's been flourishing. And again, shout out New York. I'm just so happy because I've been having a lot of bad picks this year. We're about to get to my Clippers, but I guess I should say Kawhi Leonard because I know Josh knows. Josh be like, you're just a player fan, but I've had a lot of bad picks. Josh has had a lot of great picks. So one thing I'll say is I've been right about the Knicks from day one, and Josh has been
Yeah,
wrong from
true.
day one about the Knicks. But anyways, go ahead, Josh.
100% true. Good series. I mean, obviously, I didn't, disrespect the Knicks. Thought that the series would go to seven because I thought the teams were too evenly matched. But once the game got on the court, man, it was clear which team, was way ahead, man. Brunson will lead this team to great things. I mean, obviously, they need to add more pieces because I don't think they can compete like with that big group. Like I said, that big three right now, long term anyway. But you know, we'll see. Where they go from here. I mean, obviously, they're in the second round now. I think
And now
they're
they got a path to the conference finals. The Bucks is
they
out.
do.
They got a real path for the conference
They
finals. They're
actually
playing
do,
a Heat
man.
team that is injured. They're missing their third best scorer. This is one of the worst
Yup.
offensive teams in the league. And Tibbs might know a little bit about Jimmy Butler.
we, true. I think he knows a lot about Jimmy. But yeah, I mean, like I said, shout out Brunson, bro. Shout out Danny. You know, 100% Knicks fan. And it's nice to see, the Knicks fans, have something to celebrate about, Brunson changed the franchise. I mean, that can't be understated. His impact, like, he might go down as, one of the best Knicks signings ever if that might, be too
I
much.
mean, I
Knicks
really
fans
people look
correct
at
me, but
success because people are saying, "Oh, you can't lose to Donovan Mitchell." At least I didn't believe. I thought that making the playoffs was already a success, but
yeah.
them winning a series and beating the Donovan Mitchell thing, I mean, it's already a success. But now that they have a chance to actually make it to the conference final, it feels realistic, like a real shot at it.
Yep.
It's gonna be interesting. And if they make the conference final, oh my goodness, New York is going to.
Yep. New York gonna
Danny
be
told me
it.
New York might be on fire. That's what he told me.
For real, man. New York. Shout out Knicks, man. Wait, what was the thing I had to do for Danny though, bro?
Oh yeah, so it's this is funny. So technically, this has nothing to do with the Knicks, but Danny said, made a bet kind of with Josh that if the Knicks win, and Josh was pretty confident that Cleveland was going to win the series, and because Knicks won the series, that he has to say ah.
You feel me? And me, bro, always make good on the bets. Sucks that the Hawks are out, but always next year. Ah, ah.
I'm weak.
So next, moving on to the West. First seed Denver versus the 8 seed Timberwolves. Denver did win the series 4-1. What are your thoughts?
As expected, I thought it'd be a sweep. Got to give credit. Minnesota won one game. Can't Anthony Edwards was big time, and he had a big thing. He said, "I just can't get swept," and he made sure that did not happen. So shout out to them. But what I saw is Joker doing his thing. But their depth and everything. But the one thing that it's looking very scary for other teams when they gotta play Denver is Bubble Murray because he's back. Oh my goodness, what he was doing in the first round. This is why. This is what Denver was missing. They know they had injuries for 2 years. Now Murray's back. Ooh, they're scary team. MPJ. They got Jamal, Aaron Gordon, Joker. The depth. They got Bruce Brown. They
Yeah.
got Thomas Bryant. They got. I mean, I feel like I'm missing some names. They got Bruce Brown. They got Thomas Bryant.
Michael Porter
Chris.
Jr.,
No, he starts. I'm trying to.
uh,
I'm trying. I know. Oh,
Reggie
Jeff Green. Jeff
Jackson,
Green.
Jeff
Jeff Green.
Green,
Reggie Jackson. I mean, their depth
DeAndre
is
Jordan
really
off the
good.
bench, a good vet.
Christopher Braun, who's really good. He gets some minutes, so they got real good depth. They're a scary team, and I'm excited. And obviously, this is the team that I picked. Obviously, because Paul George didn't return back in the series, but I picked them to come out the West, and they started off really strong. And I'm very happy to see them in round two. I'm excited to see them against the Phoenix Suns. It's gonna be an interesting series. So I just want to say one thing about the Rudy Gobert thing. So the Minnesota Timberwolves made a major acquisition, I guess, by getting Rudy Gobert in the offseason. Obviously, I'm not blaming Rudy Gobert because he's not the one who told them, hey, you trade for me. He's going to go wherever he gets traded. But regardless, the year before, they lost in the first round as a 7 seed and they won 2 games. This year, they lost. They were the 8 seed and they only won one playoff game. So they kind of didn't really progress. Remember Cat saying this was championship or bust season?
Yeah,
I
that's
guess it
what I
was a
love.
first round exit season because,
Shout out
like
Cat,
I
man.
said, I just don't understand the trade. I really don't. Like I said, it's not on the players. Obviously, I understand it's the front office who made this deal, but 5 picks, everything that you gave up for this, it just wasn't a smart trade. I like the Mike Conley edition. That was good, but um, you know, obviously he's not going anywhere. Nobody's gonna take that contract. Like I said, he's a good player in his role. Think he's overpaid. But this was a bad trade, and I don't know whoever in the front office made this trade. Major questions need to ask. That was an F trade. That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I mean, good series. I mean, for the most part, a lot of entertaining moments. But as expected, this would be a warm up series for Denver. I mean, everyone expected a sweep pretty much. Timberwolves did manage to steal the game thanks to Anthony Edwards and Conti Towns, heroics, but and Mike Conley too. Shout out Conley, but
Oh, he's been great for them. It's good for them.
ultimately wasn't enough. And yeah, I mean, no one's really surprised here. The team is looking promising though. Obviously, the Rudy Gobert signing is a giant stain on the organization. Sad to say. Um, doesn't really even make sense in my opinion. Like, of course, I had high hopes for the duo of Conti Towns and Rudy Gobert before the season, but seeing it play out, it's just hard to watch, man. Having Rudy Gobert on the court, no spacing offered, while one of your best, arguably your best player is a slasher, who needs those lanes to the basket. Rudy Gobert offers no spacing, they can play off of him, double to the rim. So it just makes things harder for Anthony Edwards and those drivers in the paint. So it's just very tough. And, you know, like you said, they're stuck with him. No one wants that contract. Maybe they might be able to, finesse, get him off the books, but that'll be very tough. I want to see how they do that, if even that's what they're thinking. But yeah, I mean Minnesota. I mean they got a way to go, man. Young, they got potential. Good talented players. You know, with McDaniel's, they got Ant. Conti Towns, Nikhil Alexander Walker too. Some
Got some
solid
good players.
players.
Yeah, for
Good
sure
vet
they
in
do.
Connolly, huh?
Mhm. Yeah, they got some great players.
Yeah.
But think about they could have Jared Vanderbilt still. They could have had Patrick Beverly. They could have had
Nas
Kessler.
Reed.
Nas really got hurt. He's still there, but he might
Yeah.
leave in the free
If he
agency
was
now
healthy.
because he's a free
Yeah,
agent. But
I think he's out of there, bro.
yeah, I mean he's so talented. He could be. He definitely a starting center in the league. So yeah.
Facts. But yeah, man, Minnesota. At least there's stuff to look up to. There's stuff in the future that they can look toward.
Hmm.
But next, the fourth seed Suns versus the fifth seed Clippers. The Suns win the series 4-1. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I thought without Paul George, the Clippers were gonna lose in 6, and I told you that they were gonna win a road game. You said I was delusional. Um, and they won game 1 on the road, and obviously that was before the news with Kawhi. But you saw him drop 38. He looked like the Kawhi we saw in Toronto, drop 38. Then we saw Russell Westbrook. Had a bad shooting night, but done everything. The defense and the big block, and just the effort and the heart that he played with got them a game 1. It looked like the Clippers are looking good. Game 2 they could have won, but the Suns were home, and I expected them to tie the series. They did. And then game 3, when you hear the news Kawhi's out, um, just sad, frustrated. Obviously, just we don't because at the time we didn't really know what the extent of the injury was. Now we know what it was. Because now we know it was a torn meniscus, and it was clear that I think in game 1 it happened. So he played through a torn meniscus in game 2, which I give him kudos and props for. For playing. I'm not sure whether he knew the all details of all this or not. I'm not sure because we found out after the series ended. But regardless, obviously disappointed. this was a team that had championship aspirations, and again, just when it comes to there'll always be a what if team. Injuries again, no Paul George, and then no Kawhi. I got to give kudos to Russ. He was absolutely spectacular. I think Josh was spot on that this was a massive plus for them in a signing. I mean, he had a 37-point game. He averaged like 23 for the
Yeah,
series. For a guy who was only making 750,000 as a member of the Clippers for what production he gave you. I mean, he was leading them. He was like their best player. And it's unfortunate how it ended because looking at the way the Suns played, I didn't feel very impressed by the way they played. They barely escaped Game 3 by 5 points.
I
Game
agree.
4, they barely won. Game 5, they were up big. It felt like that was the game that they destroyed the Clippers, and the Clippers tied it. They came back. So I didn't feel very impressed what they did. I think their bench is not very strong. Devin Booker was spectacular though after Game 1. I don't know, but he was just because they were just so focused on KD, he was just smoking them. But regardless, it makes me see just with Kawhi, I think the series could have won 7, and they actually could have just won this series just with Kawhi and with PG. Now looking at the series, I feel very confident they would have won. But again, that's a what if because they weren't healthy. Regardless, the Suns are going to play against what was available, and they handled their business. It wasn't impressive in my opinion, but they still won the series. And all I say is good luck when they play Denver. But that's kind of my thoughts. Obviously, very sad. And we're about to talk about more about the Clippers. But I'm obviously disappointed. It comes again another year injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I did predict Suns winning in five. Obviously, no one can predict the injury of Kawhi Leonard. Didn't see that coming, honestly. Um, Paul George, I mean, it was teased he'll be back late in the series. Later came out that he would miss the entire series, so that kind of sucked. So I mean, honestly, in what you said, Westbrook star for me, amazing performance, and the Suns were looking extremely shaky. And I will say here, you were there first. I do believe that if Kawhi Leonard had played the entire series, the Suns probably would have got knocked out because the way they were playing, they couldn't check him. He was locking up opposition. He was playing
And I and
110%,
you
like you
you
said,
always
bro.
said potentially before like nowadays Kawhi wouldn't guard those guys, but he was guarding
He
KD and,
was
and giving him
picking him
buckets
up,
on
bro,
the other
locking him
hand,
down too as well.
giving him
So
buckets.
he played
That
great. And the Suns, like they said, lack of depth is clearly showing, man. I think they're gonna struggle versus Denver. They were my pick, but it's looking very tough if I'm being realistic. And, you know, the Clippers, I mean, just unlucky here. I mean, I feel like you said, if they had both Kawhi and PG, I mean, I think they take the series, bro. You see what they did with Kawhi alone. I thought it was over. I was clearly wrong. Every game was close. And, it was just tough to see that this organization is extremely unlucky. But next question. Do you think the Clippers championship window is officially closed?
I mean, I'ma still say no. I mean, because again, it's always to me it's always a what if they're not healthy, if one of those superstars not healthy, I think, yeah, I said with Kawhi, maybe they could win a playoff series or something like that. Before that news with when that news of PG came, that's what I potentially thought. But to win a championship, they need both of those stars. The league is very competitive. But it comes down to this: if they healthy, they got a shot to win a championship. They're contenders, but the problem is it's always a what if because it's unfortunate to say this. History will tell you that going into next year playoffs, maybe they won't be healthy, and I don't want that to happen, obviously. But it's just the history of what it happens. Um, it's just unfortunate, and I would say no right now, but uh, time is ticking. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, me, obviously, if they're 100%, from what I've seen from this series alone, I'm going to say no, it's not closed. But the question is, will it ever be 100%? I mean, it's one or the other will get hurt. I mean, you've seen that every season.
Yeah, it's not, and
So,
again, we don't want it, but
yeah,
if it
obviously,
just
nobody
history
wants it to
shows
happen,
you
but
that something like that continues to
it's just,
happen.
it's just, it's just what happens. It's the trend.
Yeah.
So if I'm being realistic, um, I'm gonna say yes, it's closed because I can't see both of them staying healthy for an entire season and postseason.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Idealistically, obviously, if they're 100%, it's open. But if I'm being realistic, I have to say it's closed. I mean, I can't say I see them both being healthy for an entire year, postseason included.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I'll just say it's closed based on that alone.
So Josh, kind of wanted to ask you something. So we know it's been 4 years of the Kawhi and PG era for the Clippers. First year, I remember I cried that day, but first year they choked the 3-1 lead in the bubble against the Denver Nuggets in the second round. Second year, Kawhi gets hurt in round two against Utah in Game Four. But they still find a way to make to the conference finals. But obviously, without Kawhi, they ended up losing 6 games to the Phoenix Suns. Third year, Kawhi missed the whole year, and PG missed a lot of time. They missed the playoffs. Fourth year, PG misses the playoffs. Kawhi only played 2 games in the playoffs. They lose in round one. Do you think it's time for the Clippers to, start all over and rebuild, or you think they should run it back? But what is before you answer, what it seems like they're probably running it back because Lauren Franks, or what he said, in his press conference after the season. That's what it looked like he said. But what do you think?
Um, for me, um, they can try to run it back, but like I said, I can't see, you know, both of them being healthy. So it would just be a repeat of the same scenario that's been happening for the past few years.
Hmm.
Obviously, you got Russ, Mr. Consistent. He's gonna be there. I
Yeah, they
say,
have to re-sign him, man.
I say, maybe a controversial take, but I'm gonna say retool. I mean, you got to trade either PG or Kawhi. Obviously, you're leaning toward keeping Kawhi Leonard, and I think you got to just trade for either a consistent, lesser player, obviously, because you won't get equal value, or just some more like impactful pieces because
Yeah,
I
but
can't see them both being
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
And you need one or the other to win. So if they're both out, like you must have one player that's consistent, outside of from Russ. So I think they just try to get like a third, like star potential player, just for that role, and just hopefully Kawhi can have a healthy season. And that's the best because having two injury prone stars on your roster at once and their injuries overlap, that has to be the worst feeling for an owner, for a coach, for a team in general, for fans.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that's the best option for them. So just trade one of them. I'm obviously leaning toward trading Paul George, and just seeing what you can get in return. I mean, that's the best I can think of right now.
For me personally, I see where you're coming from. I'm gonna say run it back because I feel like for the Clippers, they already invested a lot into this. To get Kawhi Leonard, the GM that he was, the quiet GM, put the Clippers in a position like, get me Paul George, or I'm not coming here. I'm going to the Lakers. And they got Paul George, and to get Paul George, they gave up all their future assets. They gave up Shy. Now we see what a superstar he is. They gave up a lot to get him. So I feel like they're already so much into the process of like, okay, we know these two guys give us a chance to win a championship. Problem is, we've been injury prone in the one year that we were healthy, we blew it. So um, to me personally, if what you said about if they wanted to look, if this organization was like, you know what, I actually want to retool, I wouldn't blame them because history would tell
Yeah,
you they won't be healthy next year. Something will happen. And again, I don't. Nobody wants that to happen, but history will tell you that. So I wouldn't blame. Obviously, I'm a Kawhi fan. I would want him to. I would love to see the team running back, and it seems like what Lawrence Frank said. That's what they're planning to do. Um, but you wouldn't. I couldn't blame them if they wanted to, retool. But to me, is if you're gonna say trade PG, trade one of them, I don't see the point of keep like if you trade one of them, your window is closed. You need both of them to win. And whatever you
that's
trade,
fair.
if you trade Paul George, you're not gonna get a superstar player back. You're not gonna get a Giannis Antetokounmpo. So it doesn't make sense that to me that if you trade one, like honestly, if you wanted to retool, you might as well trade both. That's just what I think. Like I don't see how you trading one
Yeah,
would
but that's
help
basically
you.
a rebuild. Like,
Yeah, but like I just don't see how you trading one. Is it just like keep one and bring some what other players? You need two superstars to win a championship. You need star players. You
yeah,
can't just get Paul George. You get draft capital and some potential star players. You can't. It just won't work. Obviously, again, I'm not. I don't want Kawhi to get traded. He's my favorite player. I want him seeing with the Clippers. But I'm just saying I just don't think it makes sense to trade one or the other because you trade one of them, the window is officially closed. You're not winning. Um, so I think what they should obviously again, I wouldn't blame if they wanted to restart. But I think if they run it back, I think you just it's Kawhi PG are there. The main thing is re-signing Russ this offseason, re-signing Mason Plumlee. They got the roster. The one thing I'll say is this: the front office has done everything their power to build a great team around their two superstars. So they have no blame for what's happening right now. Ty Lue's done a phenomenal job. He's overachieved with his superstars missing a lot of time. For the talent that he had, obviously they were good players, but they were role players. They fit their roles. Um, for the less talent he had, he overachieved in the sense because again he didn't have his superstars, and when he did have his superstars, he won playoff series. So he's done a great job. Bottom line is, this is on these two star players. You got to put all the real blame on them. They have to. It's unfortunate because injuries are part of the game, and they're just unfortunate when it comes to injuries. But when it just comes to injuries, obviously when it comes to Kawhi's, there's that not reliability, not because you know he has anything off the court. He's just not reliable because he can't stay healthy, and that goes to the same thing for PG. So it's really on these two. They owe the Clippers a championship. The Clippers have gave them everything they wanted. They got their bag. They got the players that they want. They got the coach they wanted. They got the point guard they wanted. They got everything they wanted. So they got the ones who got to deliver. So I can't put any blame on anybody besides those two superstars. You can't put it on the front office. You can't put it on Bomber. You can't put it on anybody. The roster is set. You can't win championships with when these two stars are not playing. You just can't.
Yeah.
So tell us the last thing. This is an interesting thing.
Okay, so Stephen A. Smith said this, pretty controversial. He said Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers should force Kawhi Leonard to retire. Said this on the first take. He said he's done with this. And he thinks that Kawhi should just go home. It's over. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, I know Kawhi Leonard doesn't get criticized by the media as much as other players do. I know that, but I feel like this is a little too much. I mean, from Stephen A. Smith. And look, I watch First Take. I watch a lot of these debate shows. I watch, I love watching NBA on TNT. I watch these shows. We all do. We try to learn from them. They're journalists. So you want to learn from them and see what they say. It's always cool to watch and hear other people's perspective. And this is a very controversial perspective, and this is an opinion, and he just straight up just told what he felt. But he did call Kawhi Leonard the worst superstar ever, which I did not agree with. Because we've seen Kawhi. The problem I think people have with Kawhi is the load management thing. And I think obviously he got that from San Antonio. I'm not putting that on them, but San Antonio had a history of doing it. But Kawhi Leonard is one, he just doesn't value the regular season as much as he does with the postseason. He lives for the postseason. We see that when Toronto, it worked out. They won an NBA championship. He played all those postseason games. But to force him to retire and people saying, oh, why he didn't play, all that stuff, it felt like they tried to criticize his character, the person that he is. But then when you see the news come out that he tore his meniscus, like, what do you expect the guy to do? Like, go out there and play? Obviously, that's a very severe injury. That could cause it to get worse. And unfortunately, it was in the same knee that he got his ACL injury. So bottom line is, I don't think Stephen A. Smith has any right to tell anybody to retire. That's up to Kawhi. I think a lot of people are saying that, but I know how tough this probably are mentally on Kawhi with this meniscus thing, but you can't tell anybody to retire. That's his decision. And just say he's the worst superstar ever, or he's all this type of stuff. I think that's just disrespectful and rude. You don't really say those type of stuff. And bottom line, yes, Kawhi Leonard is unreliable in the sense he can't be available because he can't be healthy, but he's clearly when he's on the floor, he's a special player and he's a proven winner. So I just think this is a very ludicrous statement. I did not agree with this one bit. And people saying, "Oh, he should play. He should play." He did play a game too. On that meniscus tear. But if you have that kind of severe injury, I mean, what do you expect the guy to play? Like, you could go out there and risk further injuries. So when I heard the report that that was what happened, I was devastated. But can't be saying this type of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty harsh take. Obviously, he has to say like stuff like that to, I guess encourage conversation. But I don't feel like he should retire. Obviously, he has had major knee injuries
Yeah,
on,
he
I believe,
has.
the same knee, isn't it? Is it not?
Yeah, it's the same knee.
So I mean, obviously some questions have to be asked about what he wants to do. But there's been players who've had similar stuff before and player had pretty long careers. So let's just see how he comes back. Hopefully he's
Yeah,
100% next season, and it won't be a situation
yeah,
where he's sitting out the entire year like
yeah,
before.
but the thing is, he also one thing he said this. He was like, he said that and again, I'm not putting words on his mouth, but I think I believe he said that he doesn't believe that obviously he's not questioning the legitimacy of a Kawhi Leonard of Kawhi Leonard's injuries, but then he ultimately goes on and says like, we don't see Kawhi Leonard get hurt, but we see Paul George get hurt. So it gets me confused with what he's actually
Yeah,
trying to say. That seems like you're questioning it.
he's trying to imply that he's like
Yeah,
quitting.
like it's like, oh, why don't you go out there and play? You're hurt. Like, bottom line is that's a serious injury, and knowing Kawhi, just knowing Kawhi, like regular season different. Yes, he doesn't play as much. He doesn't value as much in the playoffs. That's what he's built for. I feel like if it's nothing like very serious, he would have played. But this something like this is very serious, and you got to understand why the Clippers shut him down. But like I said, I feel like people question his character and questioning his passion and love for the game. I again the regular season thing I understand, but he definitely loves the game. I don't think people should criticize his character. If you want to criticize the fact that he's unreliable in the sense that he can't play games, that is true because he can't stay healthy. But he's a two-time champion, two-time Finals MVP, top 75 all player, arguably in his peak, elite defensive player, two-time defensive player of the year. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. Um, but I mean, this what a take. That's all I'm gonna say. I just was stunned by this take. But look, everybody has their own opinions, but obviously, I hope Kawhi continues to play, and if and hopefully he can stay healthy. But that was a crazy take.
Yeah, pretty harsh take. Basically saying retire, just go home. I think that's a pretty
Forced to
harsh take.
retire, like that's not
Yeah,
your call.
it's too
That's up to
much.
him.
But obviously that's something that's to discuss with the organization. I don't think he'll end up doing it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean forcing it is crazy.
I
But
just hated the fact that he ultimately goes say worst superstar ever. I think that's not true.
I don't think he meant talent wise. I just think he meant like in terms of what he gives you back, essentially. And especially as of late, he's always hurt. So
Yeah.
obviously we see what's done in the past. Can't take that away with his championship rings, his All Stars, his defensive player of the years. But as of late, I mean, he's basically hurt every other year. Nothing in the postseason really. When he plays, obviously he plays amazing, but it's not really like
Yeah.
over consistent stretches. You'd say,
That's true. I get that. I get that.
I
But
guess maybe that's where he's coming from. I don't know.
yeah, I understand the unreliability thing, but retire on. I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
retires a bit much. So next, the second seed Memphis Grizzlies versus the seventh seed Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers won the series 4-2. What are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on this series, obviously, Josh, are going to give Kung, your flowers. You picked the Lakers to win in 6 games. I picked the Lakers in 7, but I think we both expected the Lakers win this series. Bottom line is, we felt like the most important player in this series was going to be Anthony Davis, and he had that impact defensively. He had some good offensive games, but he was also had some inconsistent offensive games. But bottom line is the Lakers others really stepped up. Game 1 was Hachimura. You had a
Yeah.
game with Austin Reeves playing good, and then the game that I think when they were up 2-1, the game 4 felt like Memphis could have won that game. They was up, and then LeBron James, the clutch guy that he is, big shot going into overtime. To force overtime, then they get to overtime, then 2 clutch layups. Again, that's was over Dylan Brooks because he was talking a lot and came back to bite him. But then they were up 3-1. Then game 5, they basically the Lakers got spanked, and then came back game 6 and they won by 40 points. And then Dylan Brooks said he don't respect nobody until he give him 40. He got blown out by 40. And in game 4,
Yep.
LeBron James dropped 20 points and 20 rebounds. That adds up to 40. Like I think Shaq. I think Shaq said that. But regardless, I don't like same thing. What we noticed with Memphis is that immaturity. They don't have that experience, and again, they kind of just they talk a lot for a team that hasn't accomplished anything. But bottom line is, Lakers. I felt like they were going to win this series. LeBron, AD were phenomenal, and then defensively they were great, and the others really stepped up, and that's ultimately why the Lakers are moving on, and the Memphis Grizzlies are going home.
Yeah, I mean, interesting series to say at least, man. Dylan Brooks, man. The new villain, man. Not gonna lie, not gonna say I like the antics, bro, but I kind of like the trash talk, bro. Like, like I feel like
Yeah.
the
Only
league,
problem I
needs some
have
more
is if you're
villains,
gonna
bro.
do it, and
You
once
gotta
he
back it
lost,
up though. You gotta back it up,
he
bro.
didn't talk to the media after that.
Yeah, you gotta back it up, and
That just
like Lucas said, bro,
that's not a good
you
look.
talking tough when you up, bro. You gotta do it when you down too, bro. Shout out Pat
He
Bev, man. At
he
least
didn't
Pat
do
Bev is
it. Yeah.
consistent, bro.
Game 3,
But
he didn't talk. He avoided the media. He avoided the media in game 4. He kept avoiding the media. You know,
that's facts. He was
and
scared, bro.
that's just like
But
he legit avoided the media. Oh my goodness!
literally,
Like
bro.
he got fined too
Ridiculous.
for it.
Hilarious, bro. But that's what LeBron does, man. Silence the critics, silence the haters, man. Really just kind of expected from me, like you did. I did call it. I don't think
Hmm.
Memphis is ready at all. To me, like you said, one of the biggest points was AD, and this is very tough to say, but AD was looking better than the Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson.
Hmm.
The Memphis Grizzlies players were literally avoiding going in the paint to avoid getting blocked by AD. I seen very tough. So I mean, that just shows to me the levels that these teams are on. Obviously, Ja had his injury. He still played pretty decent? I'd say Desmond Bain played okay. But I just felt the Lakers were like a step ahead of this team all the way, all around.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, nothing too surprising here
Yeah,
for me.
and we understand, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark were missing. That was another reason why I felt like the Lakers were going to win. I mean, I had the Lakers regardless, but I think the bottom line is, um, AD and LeBron had, it wasn't together, but one time it was LeBron who had the better game, then it was AD, and it was the bench. The bench was really good. Austin Reeves, Hachimura, I don't know, he was average. The first game that he did, just the depth, everybody stepped up, and it was a good series for the Lakers, and uh, they're back in. They're back in round 2. They had a couple of tough years, and now they're back.
Yep. So next, the third seed Kings versus the 6 seed Warriors. The Warriors ended up winning the series 4-3, Game 7. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
First,
but
obviously, Kings did go up
just
2
looking
0.
at that series, the Kings did win the first 2
The
games,
Warriors
and a lot of
under the
people
Steph
probably
Curry
thought panic for
era
Golden
that he
State.
never been down
But Golden
0-2,
State,
and he
they
just
protected home court, win game
they
3,
won
game
in
4.
7.
It's a
Obviously, they
2-2
protected home
series.
court. I
Both
think
teams
both
probably
teams felt
felt
like they should have been up
that
3-1
they should have
after
been up
4
3-1
games. I mean,
after
game
the
1,
first 4 games,
Wiggins
because in
misses a
game
shot.
1, Wiggins missed that
Sacramento ends up
3.
winning
They
the game.
potentially could have had the lead, and then game 4, Harrison Barnes missed that 3. So both teams probably feel they had a case to be up 3-1. Regardless, it was 2-2. The Warriors were struggled on the road tremendously this season. You look at it, and they win game 5 on the road, so it feels like game 6, they're going to close it out. Sacramento shows, regardless of youth and inexperience, that, they weren't going to give up, and they really came out and executed their game plan. Golden State came out flat. They win game 6, so it looks like maybe, you know, Golden State, who struggled to win road games this season, they were one of the worst road teams in the league. Can they, find a way, to win another road game? It feels like just winning one was hard enough for them, based on what this season says. But playoffs is a different animal. And call him King, Chef, Steph Curry. He did his thing, and he dropped 50 points. He did what your boy, Josh's favorite player, Kevin Durant, who dropped 48 points in a game 7. Steph, obviously topped it with 50, highest ever. But he just showed, he put his team on his back and showed that we're not going home today. We're going to the next round, and we're still here. And that's ultimate. That's for me why. He, wherever you ranked him, but for me, he was, coming from that last season, he was in my top 3. My list probably has changed. Maybe he's higher, but there was a reason why I put him top 3. I mean, I feel like he's just a phenomenal superstar talent. What he did in Game 7 to put his team on his back after Thompson, Poole, everybody struggled, just shows what an elite player he is, and we'll see what happens in round 2. But just say King, Chef, Steph Curry, whatever you want to call him. The man's different.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, great series end to end, man. Like, I was actually scared for a second. I actually did think Sacramento was going to take it. But, Curry, clutch, man. Great performance. Klay Thompson struggled that last game, and he just had to take over to win, and that's what he did, man. Like you said, Sabonis was kind of iffy this series. He played decent overall, pretty good overall, but it's
Yeah,
mainly Fox and
I
Monk
feel
that
like he
really
was a
just
bit more
took for them. Yeah,
passive.
he was, yeah. Passing some shots
And
he wouldn't really
also,
take.
it stinks that Fox had that index finger injury.
Yeah.
It could have hampered him a bit, but I mean, they still made it competitive. I feel like they had nothing to lose in this series, and they really showed they got a bright future. But obviously they were very close, and then they obviously ultimately when it's 3-3, it's a game seven. You want to win, but it just came down to
Yeah.
Sacramento just came out flat in the fourth. They were just struggling to make shots, and that's why it shows that kind of championship pedigree. But their future is bright. They had a great series. Ultimately, they gained a lot of respect by everybody. But just say King Chef Curry.
Facts, man. Like it's Kings of the bright future, man. It'll be great to see where they go.
Yeah. So moving on, to the so now we have, I would say, a dream matchup: the number 6 Golden State Warriors versus the 7 seed Los Angeles Lakers. We get Steph LeBron Part 5. Who you got?
Well, I mean, listen, this, I feel like it's gonna be a very entertaining series, and I believe that, based on what I see in the past rounds, the Lakers doing what they did against the Grizzlies, the Kings, putting up a fight against the Warriors, but the Warriors ultimately, taking the late win in Game 7. I mean, it's gonna be tough to call, man. I feel like this could be a 7-game series, and I'm gonna be calling Warriors in 7.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we did like our whole prediction, and if we look at our bracket so far, I think in the West, I did pick Phoenix obviously because my assumption was Paul George wasn't going to return, and he didn't, and obviously the Clippers played. You could argue if Kawhi was there. We already talked about this. They probably win that. They could have made it, way more competitive. But regardless, you picked the Suns. We both picked the Lakers Warriors to win their series and Denver. So we got the West right. You got the Cavs wrong. I got that one right. Everybody got the Bucks wrong. Let's just keep it as it is. Um, what was the other two series in the East? Celtics Philly. So basically, we almost got the West. We got all right, and then I got the East, 3 of them right. You got 2 of them right. But regardless, saying all of this, I think initially, and I'm gonna stay with the same pick I had. Warriors in 7 as well. I think this is going to be a very entertaining series. It's a thriller series. I'm gonna say, would I be surprised the Lakers won? Probably not. I mean, the Lakers
Yeah,
are more
I
than
agree.
capable of winning this series. I want to see how they, can the Warriors contain Anthony Davis because he's going to be the X factor. The most important player in this series. But this is gonna be a fun, entertaining series. You got the Warriors who, they're gonna have home court. This series, but it's gonna be a fun series. Both, Steph, LeBron, pretty even teams on both sides. Lakers got, I think, elite defense. They're two superstar players, elite depth. Warriors got, Steph Curry, the superstar. Klay Thompson, I know he's been in and out, but out of nowhere he could drop 30. You can't count that guy out. Jordan Poole, Draymond, the championship pedigree. And Kevon Looney's so
Yeah,
underrated. I mean,
he's a
he
talent.
destroyed Sabonis on the rebounds. Yeah, like he can legit change a series with his rebounding. So I got the Warriors in 7. It's going to be ultimately a competitive series. I'm excited for this series. I really am, and um, can't wait to see this series. This is a dream matchup. I never thought we could see Steph versus LeBron again. And is in the
Yeah.
West in the second round. For one team to make it to the conference finals, the stakes couldn't be any higher. So let's move on to topic 2. We're going to do the Eastern Conference second round predictions. Let's start off with the 5th seed New York Knicks versus the 8th seed Miami Heat.
You know, you know, I believe, this is New York's year. They will be in the conference finals. Book it. Some have
how,
been saying
how many
I,
games?
I might be a curse, but
You definitely are. You've been
let's see,
picking against the
bro.
Knicks, and
I'm
they've been
picking the
winning.
New
Pick
York
the
Knicks
Heat.
in
Ah,
6 over the Miami Heat. I
let's
can't pick the Heat, bro. I can't pick the Heat. I'm picking the New York Knicks. I'm picking the New York Knicks in 6, bro. Shout out New York. Shout out Knicks fans. Shout out Brunson. Shout out Quickly. You feel me?
You got
Shout them
yo
out.
petty guy. You got to get over the
Free
Ray
and
Allen
free
shot,
Jimmy, man.
bro. You got
Free
to get
Jimmy,
over the
free
Ray
hero,
Allen,
man.
bruh.
Free Spolstra, man. Get him
Freeze.
out of
They
there,
all want
bro.
to be there,
Get him out of there, bro. Matter of fact, free Pat Riley too, bro. While we're at it, bro. Get him out of there, bro.
bruh. This guy's the ultimate
Hey,
troll,
man. Knicks tape. Knicks
bruh.
in 6. Book it.
Bruh. This take was all based on. So remember when Josh said that he has a
Bro,
team? He
I generally
does.
believe the Knicks are gonna win the series.
Okay,
Like,
regardless. But you remember, a couple episodes ago, Josh had a said that he there's a team that he does not like. It's clear he just kind of gave a hint here. Got to get over a petty guy with the Ray Allen shot. I know it hurts. Get over it, man.
no comment
But
on that, but
regardless, ultimately, yeah, I do. You've been picking against the Knicks all this time. You literally said, I don't even think. I believe you said they wasn't gonna make the playoffs. Now it's their year. How the tide just turned.
they showed me
Uh,
wrong, man. Shout out
all
Brunson,
right.
man.
I also agree. I think the Knicks are going to win in 6 games. I think, regardless, if you look at this series, I think they got a lot of guys who can guard Jimmy Butler. I think Tibbs is one of those great elite coaches. He's going to find a way to make adjustments. And I think the issue in this series is going to be Jimmy Butler, obviously. He can clearly go out and drop 50. But they got guys like Josh Hart, a lot of players that can throw on him and try to make it tough on him with Tyler Hero being missing and this arguably being the worst offensive team in the league, with how the Knicks have been looking defensively and the talent that they got. Obviously, we know Julius Randle is injured. I believe he's going to play the series, and hopefully he'll be able to. Hopefully he'll be able to go. We know he's a warrior. He's gonna make sure he'll be there if he can. But I still think the Knicks win this series in 6. They have home court in this series. Jalen Brunson's playing great. They're on a high note. They won 4-1 in this series. They've been playing good basketball, good defense, and they're a better offensive team. And again, depth. I think their depth is far more superior with Tyler here and prayers up to Oladipo. You never want to see a player uh, go down like that. And I know he's had a lot of knee issues, so prayers up to him. Hopefully, he gets ready, get well soon. I want to see him back on the court. But I do have the Knicks winning this series in 6 games. I think this is going to be a series for the Knicks, and I saw the Knicks ceiling, definitely to be a second round. But now with the Milwaukee Bucks being out, they got a real shot at this conference finals. So let's go, New York. And please, I am begging that the Josh curse doesn't come real because he's picking against the Knicks all this time, and the Knicks have been playing good. So if the Knicks lose, everybody blame Joshua. But let's move. Let me tell you the next one. So New York stand, I'm Knicks in 6. Let's go, Danny. All right. So next, we got the second seed Celtics versus the third seed Sixers.
Um, well, if Embiid's 100%, which is what I'm hoping for, if not, I mean, obviously I'm gonna go with the Celtics. But if Embiid's healthy, I'm gonna go with this. In full health, I will be picking the Philadelphia 76ers. I'll say in 7 because I feel like this is a pretty tough series. They got stars on both ends, good depth on both sides. I feel like it'll be one of the most entertaining series to watch. Both of these teams could end up in the finals. So I feel like this is going to be one of the best series, potentially in this postseason. So I will
Mm.
be going 76ers in 7.
Yeah, people can argue. Obviously, with the Bucks being out, one of these two teams might, end up making it to the finals. Whoever wins this series. But for me, I've been telling you, I just can't see the 76ers beat the Celtics with a healthier Embiid. Or hopefully he's healthy. Obviously, I want to see him healthy, but healthier beat or not, I just can't see them beating the Celtics. The Celtics have owned them. We've seen them this season. They beat them 3 out of 4 times, and the one time that the Sixers won, Embiid dropped 52, and Jalen Brown, Robert Williams did not play, and they won by 2 points. The Celtics are just a bad matchup for the Sixers. Al Horford is the Sixers' kryptonite. He low-key owns them when it comes to anytime he plays them. I think I said Celtics in 7 in our before the when we did the whole first round brackets. I'd probably go Celtics in 6 or 7. I'm gonna just say right now 6. I think they're just gonna be too much. They got Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum. This is a team that's hungry, trying to get back to the finals. They have a great depth as well. I think stronger depth than the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, I would love to see Philadelphia 76ers in the conference finals, and finals and see Embiid in the finals. Hopefully, Embiid can get healthy. I still think it's going to be a fun series. But again, I just think the Celtics are just a bad matchup for the 76ers, and I expect the Celtics to win this series. I just can't see the Sixers being the Celtics. I just can't, assuming the Celtics are healthy. So I expect the Celtics to be back in the conference finals. So let's move on to the Western Conference. We got the first seeded Denver Nuggets versus the fourth seeded Phoenix Suns.
Well, I mean, um, you know, what I've seen from the Suns, not looking too good here. They struggle with the Clippers. They're clearly gonna, have a tough time with these deeper
Gotta stick
teams.
with that pick. My Bucks pick
And,
look cooked, so
I will be sticking with my pick.
okay.
You know, uh, they will have, like I said, they will have some tough time. But with these deeper teams, it's gonna be harder for them to play. You know, hopefully they're building chemistry while going through these games that they have.
Devin
But with
Booker and
that being
KD gonna have
said,
to be big time in this
I'm
series.
gonna say Suns in 7. I mean, I believe
Mm.
that's what I said before.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So I mean, it's gonna be a tough series. Obviously, you're gonna have to fight for the win. It's two great teams, but and I feel like whoever wins this game, I mean, this could be the team that wins it all, man. So let's just see how it goes.
I got the Nuggets in 7. Either 6 or 7. I think I'm gonna go with 7. Bottom line is the Nuggets have the two-time MVP Nikola Jokic. Bubble Murray's back. They got Gordon, MPJ. The you compare the big four of their, which is Joker, Murray, MPJ, Aaron Gordon for the big four for the Suns. CP3, Aiton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker. Obviously, you could argue Devin Booker, KD are going to be the better duo, but you could argue, MPJ, Aaron Gordon are better than DeAndre Ayton and possibly CP. And obviously, CP3 is a bit older and he's still elite at what he does. He's a great playmaker, but starting lineups I don't think they're pretty far fetched. Like somebody has a huge advantage because I think MPJ is better than this player, and then you could argue KD's better than this, and then Joker's better than Booker. So there's a lot of things like that. But the Nuggets have better depth. They got Bruce, like we said, Bruce Brown. They got Christopher Braun. They got Reggie Jackson. They got Thomas Bryant. They got uh, DeAndre Jordan. I know I'm missing another player, but they got a lot of great players off the bench. Their depth is solid. They're a really good team. They're well coached. They're the number one seed. They got home court advantage. I just expect them to win this series. I mean, they're really solid, and especially the way Jamal Murray's playing. I think they're gonna win this series, and I think for the Suns to win this series, obviously, I think KD and Booker gonna have to be big time, and they're gonna need some help. And looking at their depth, they ain't getting that help. So I think the Denver Nuggets are gonna win this series, and then the Phoenix Suns will go home and in round 2. So last time Luka sent him home, and this year Joker will send him home. So good night, Phoenix. So yeah, that concludes episode 40 of the Street Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, you can always follow us at Street Sports Podcast on Instagram. Appreciate the support. And just please, everybody, beg that the Knicks win because the Joshua curse is real.
New York.
Bruh.
Wait, bro. What's the next chant, bro?
Go New York, go New
Go
York,
New York,
go,
go
go
New
New
York,
York, go
go.
New
Book
York.
it, book it.
Bro, the curse has
Book
begun.
it. All right, thanks for listening. Peace.